So my name is Carlijn Brouwer. I work at TNO in the Netherlands, and I will tell you a little bit about our hybrid working toolbox we developed, and also a tiny bit about the research we did towards hybrid working. For us, hybrid working is a very interesting subject. We are very interested in how work is going in the Netherlands, and we've been researching that for years. So when the pandemic started, we were also very curious, how is this working from home affecting employees and employers? And especially when they could return back to the office, how would it actually look like? And that's what we did with our hybrid working research, what we did last year. In the Netherlands, we could return to the office, I think, in the beginning of last year. So what we did is we followed 11 organizations in quite some detail in their returning back to the office. These organizations varied very much in size and sector. So we wanted to get like a good overview of how would they formalize hybrid working? Would they actually formalize it? What would be the benefits? What would be the bottlenecks for employees and employers? So what we did is we followed them for 6 months. And during 6 months, 1 week every 6 months, we asked the employees questions about how their day at work was, to see what happened with this hybrid working and how did it change over these 6 months. And we also kept track of, is there anything changing in the policy of those organizations? And I will share some of the results. We looked at how they were doing in a hybrid setting when they were working from home that day. And when they were working from home, they reported that they could recover better. They felt more autonomy. They had a better work-life balance. They said they could concentrate better and they felt more productive. I think these are all things we maybe seen for ourselves as well as we were working from home. But when they were working at the office, they said, well, I felt more engaged today. I thought I could collaborate better with my colleagues. But of course, it wasn't all sunshine and roses. We also found some things that were more of the bottlenecks for these employees. And what we found was that hybrid meetings were not always that effective. And with hybrid meetings, we mean that people are on site and some of them are online in the same meeting. We heard that the connection with colleagues became a little bit less, and especially new colleagues felt this. We spoke to managers and they said they were very concerned about the well-being of their employees because they didn't see them as often as they did before. Employees said there were too many sources of information. We could chat and Teams and call and email, and that became a little bit more during the hybrid working, and that everybody had their own different channel which they like to use. And last but definitely not least, I think very important, are that we found that the wishes of the individual became more important, or more at least for employees on top of mind. And that's quite logical because we were working from home, we had all the autonomy to do how we would like to do it. But that the goals for the team became a little bit less important, or they shove a bit to the background. So what we did is we took these results and made a toolbox. We call it the Toolbox Hybrid Working. We did this together with the Ministry of Social Affairs and Work. And they also published the toolbox on their website, available for every employee and employer in the Netherlands. And we would like to help them a little bit further in like forming hybrid working in a way that they liked, by talking about these bottlenecks and giving them some tips and tricks how to work with this. I will tell you a little bit about the toolbox, and then I will also give some examples. The toolbox consisted of 8 tools, all about the things we found in our research. First of all, we had a tool about the team discussion. How can you discuss agreements about hybrid working with your team? About collaboration and connection. How do we communicate with each other? How do we connect? back to the office. What is the actual function of the office in hybrid working? And can we make it more attractive for employees to return back to the office? Hybrid meetings, like I said before, sometimes it's challenging to have an effective hybrid meeting. Healthy hybrid working, what do you think of when you think of health behavior and hybrid working? Are there different aspects we should think of? Tips and tricks for and by managers. We also spoke to a lot of managers and they gave us tips and best practices from themselves to share with other managers. Stories of experience with also useful links to other research and tools about hybrid working, and the research, the findings we had, we also published it on the website. I will now go through 3 of them a little bit more quickly because we don't have that much time. I will start a team discussion. Well, what we found and heard from employees that they were not really having the conversation within their team about hybrid working and making real agreements on team level. Maybe also because they found it was a bit, they were a bit scared because they had so much autonomy and they were a bit afraid if I'm going to discuss it, maybe I should have a little bit less autonomy afterwards. But they didn't have the team discussion as much as they would like to. So we made a roadmap with questions that you could fill in with your team at a team meeting to help you to discuss the subject and also make agreements about it on team level. Well, these are some of the subjects that were on the team discussion map, like what is this team for, what are the roles, what do we consist of, what are norms and values, how do we like to make agreements and stick to the agreements, how to collaborate with each other, how to connect, also outside of work, and what are actually the needs we have as individuals and as a team, and can we really put it onto paper. And of course, the evaluation, because it's quite new for everybody, so it's very important to keep on evaluating the agreements you made and you wrote down as a team. The next is about healthy hybrid working. Well, we saw that we now have multiple locations to work on. For example, we were working more from home. And it's very important to also have that as a healthy environment, that we can work healthy on different locations. For example, in adjusting the workplace, how do we set up the right height for the screen and everything? Because the screen work kind of enlarged. We're spending more time behind the screen. Sedentary behavior, well, you're sitting already very long now, and we know sitting is very bad for you. Work-life balance, some tips on how can you also make make sure that you're not blurring your work-life balance in between each other when you're working from home and you're closing your laptop and you're directly in your private life. How to deal with workload when your colleagues are not constantly around you to see when you're stressed. And how to deal with the autonomy you got and you get from hybrid working. Last one, tips for and by managers. These are, like I said, the tips that we got from the managers themselves to share. The first one is about new colleagues. We saw that it's quite difficult for new colleagues to start at a new job and to really know what they have to do and form their own social network at the office. And one manager told us they set up a rotation schedule. With the rotation schedule, they made sure that there's always somebody available on site to help these employees. Also about health, one of the tips was set a good example as a manager yourself. Show your employees that working healthy is very important for you, and also in a hybrid setting, you should pay attention to that. For example, going outside and calling your employee for a meeting instead of sitting behind the screen the entire time staring at Teams. And visibility, I think it's very tempting that when you are at the office, you just close yourself off in a cell and sit behind your screen again the entire time because you have team meetings. But it's very important as a manager to walk around more than you're used to maybe before, because you have less time with actually seeing your colleagues. Well, and this is published, like I said, on the website of the ministry. We launched it in February this year, and it got visited by unique visits for 25,000 times. And we see that it's still kind of popular, because 3 months ago it was 10,000 times. So people are still looking into what we published. Nowadays we're trying to look at how can we look at the long-term effects of hybrid working, because we know for this research we found people like it. You saw there were a lot of good sides of the hybrid working, but we now are very interested in what are the long-term effects, and can we maybe look into that. So I'm also very curious if you all have any research on hybrid working, and if you're thinking about the long-term effects of hybrid working. We would really like to know, so please visit me or see me at the lunch. That was my presentation.